Welcome to the GCN Tech Show. This week, we've got the truth about how that Team Ineos bike snapped in half. Team de Koenig Quickstep have been spotted riding e-bikes at the Tour de France.
Naughty.
Your upgrades, the bike vault, plus our main talking point.
How expensive are Tour de France bikes?
And John's lost his voice because he was at the Cricket World Cup final and he was screaming a lot.
True story.
Last week we talked about tech trends at this year's Tour de France, and this got us thinking, how much does a Tour bike cost these days, and which team has the most expensive bikes?
Yeah, now cycling, it has to be said, is taking more and more developments from the world of motorsports and Formula One races. And well, from that industry, it's always the most souped up car or the best engine always seems to win, doesn't it?
Yeah, and well, the tech in sailing. Sailing is all about having the best boat as well. But I mean, in cycling, you have to say it's not so simple because essentially the rider, the athlete, is the engine. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember actually my dad saying to me that in 1987, Stephen Roach, he could have won the Triple Crown in cycling, so that's the Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France and the World Championships, which he did on board a butcher's bike. I mean, I don't think he could actually have done that, but there is a certain sentiment around that saying, isn't there?
Yeah, I guess he's right, because you can have the most aerodynamic bike in the world, one that performs amazing in wind tunnel conditions and labs and stuff. But if you gave that bike to me, then I probably still wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't win the Tour de France. You can't turn a donkey into a racehorse, John.
Yeah. Or a toilet into a castle, as I believe they say in Denmark.
Do they?
Yeah.
Top of the range bikes, well, can cost a lot of money, but there is large development costs that go into that. So for a top of the range bike that would be ridden by, the top Tour de France riders, you've got the initial CAD, computer-aided design engineer development costs, where they draw it up on a computer. Then they run CFD, computational fluid dynamics simulations, to test how aero it is. Then they'll build a prototype of that and take it into the tunnel to see if it actually is aerodynamic in real life as well as on a computer.
Additive manufacturing used for that, don't they, really? That takes a long time as well. When I worked in the helmet industry, to 3D print a bike helmet can take days.
Yeah. But then also, they also look at the layup, and they often do computer simulations on engineering software to see where the best orientation of fibres will be for the carbon and what types of carbon. And then again, they build prototypes to check that in real life. Then they build the final product. The good thing is, though, is although this can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and pounds to develop, that then is something that is not just ridden by the pros, it's something that we can buy as well. So that manufacturing cost that development cost is shared with the consumers as well. But also tech trickles down. So although it may only initially be available on the top end, super expensive stuff, give it a few years and it's on the more,
affordable, really. And that's the easy way of saying it.
Yeah, and we see that with everything.
Yeah, trickle down tech is, 10 years ago, the Dual Ace is like today's 105. In fact, no, 105 now is better than 10 years ago Dual Ace.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
More gears.
Yeah. Yeah, what's not to like? Right, okay, so anyway, we have totted up the retail costs, haven't we, for various pro teams' bikes out there. We've added on, their wheels and their power meters where we can. And well, the results, we've done the prices in pounds. We're going to run through that, but on the screen there'll also be the prices in dollars and euros, let's say. Yeah, we haven't had Brexit just yet, so we are going to include the euros.
What about Zimbabwean dollars, John?
No, the screen's not big enough for all the digits. It's a big old thing, that.
Sorry, Zimbabwe.
Right, okay, go on, start us off then.
Right, so looking at Trek Segafredo's bikes, the Trek Madon SLR9 is more expensive than the Emonda, I believe.
Only just slightly.
Yeah. But with ETAP, if you were to get that in a race limited bike, then you're looking at about £11,000, well, £11,050 for one of those. But
scary.
If you look at like Bauke Mollema and Richie Port, they've got custom painted ones. Now the custom painting is hard to get an exact price for because it varies on the paint job that you get from Project One from Trek. But you'd envisage that there's probably a fair amount of money put on that. Maybe
a little premium, I imagine.
Yeah, maybe as much as £1,500. We could possibly say as a conservative.
Yeah, I think so.
This is a pricey paint job.
Yeah.
In which case, you then start to get towards £12,500 roughly, I'd say, for that bike.
All right, moving on then. Specialised S-Works Venge Sagan collection. So we're going to go with Bora Hansgrohe. I don't think he actually rides a bike from his own collection. I think it's an extra bit of money, but, well, he does normally have a fancy paint job, so we can factor that in. That comes in at £10,250. So again, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite an easy one to price up, again with the Trek, because they use all their own parts. So you've got the Bontrager wheels or the Roval wheels.
Anything
It's what you buy is what the pros ride, essentially.
They use the same saddles, the same wheels, the same tyres, everything.
Yeah. But then if we move on to BMC, premium brand.
Yeah, Dimension Data.
Pricey bikes at Dimension Data. You're looking at $3,700 for the Time Machine frame set, which is what Cavendish and
aerodynamic road race machine.
Then £3,654 for Dura-Ace Di2. Although there are slight changes there in terms of they use a rotor twin power.
That's true, yeah, the KMC chain. But these are all approximate, but you know, ballpark figures really.
Bear with us, yeah. Wheels, they use Envy, which are fancy pants wheels. You're looking at about £3,300 a set retail price of those. So you're basically getting to approximately, again, £11,000 a bike there.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, people often ask me, I don't know about you, they go, how much are those bikes? And you don't really know, do you? You're just like, well, yeah, I normally say that's about £5,000 what they ride. Yeah. But then let's move on then to the.
if it's like the dodgy man by the bus shelter in Doncaster Town Centre, or £100 Halfords. You know, you don't want to say. Anyway, big dogs though, right?
Yeah, right. Pinarello. Okay, yeah, Pinarello F12 X-Lite. So this is the top of the pops bike from Pinarello. Brand new, isn't it? You got to look at one. Yeah. X-Lite, a little bit lighter, different layup in carbon and everything. Frame alone, £6,200. Group set again, 3,654. Wheels, remember they're using those lightweight Meilenstein. I don't think they're the Obermeyer, so I didn't factor that in when I did this because, well, we don't want to go too overboard. Anyway, total price, because also you've got to put the integrated handlebar and stem on there, and tyres, saddle, all those sorts of things. You're looking about £14,600 for Team Sky's bikes. Yeah. Remember, they are the team of marginal gains, though, aren't they?
Nearly 15 grand.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Is your voice all right, mate?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So you know what?
It was like this at the start.
You've got a career in premium rate chat, I think.
Let's move on from that, Ollie. Let's move on.
Anyway, well, another team that's right up there is Sunweb with their Cervelo S5s, as ridden by Michael Matthews, who's doing quite well in the points competition in the Tour de France. Now, the S5 disc frame set, £4,299 for that. You then got the Shimano wheels on there, which are the C60s, the aero wheel, very nice, very pricey wheels, but £1,290 for the rear wheel retail, £1,149 for the front. So that brings it up to about £10,700 roughly.
But how's it got up there, you may ask?
Well,
so quick. Anyone out there who's doing the maths in their head is thinking,
that's not
right. What's Ollie on about?
Well, we add on the group set, again, Shimano Dura-Ace Di2, they're sponsored by Shimano, it's £3,600. And then, well, if we add on the £4 grand paint job that we spoke about,
paint technologies, that
adds about 20 grams in weight. That's Formula One paint that we spoke about in last week's show. Yeah, that ramps it up pretty quick. Yeah. So then it goes up to what, £14,400 roughly. Yeah, so they're pretty much the most expensive with that paint job.
But let's take it back down to a more reasonable level. I think so. Wanty Group Gobert, a team who are always in the breakaway at the Tour de France. I absolutely love watching them race. They're they don't hide anything, do they? No. They just go all out. Anyway, so they're Cube Lightning. They use various different bikes, for their mountains and all the flats. Lightning, that's their aero bike, isn't it? £7,500. Yeah, half the price.
Yeah,
half the price.
Half the price. But, well, also, Canyon Ultimate CF SLX, right?
I mean, that's been, it's a world champion's bike.
Two teams
winning bike.
Are riding it, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you've got Katusha, Alpecin, and also Movistar, both ride Canyon, including world champion Valverde. We've got a pro bike video on that. Roughly £6,500 will get you a bike that is pro bike standard.
Yeah.
The Tour de France bike standard. That's, I mean,
yeah, it's incredible actually, you know that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty close.
The disparity there between
yeah.
you know, the top 15 sort of grand and then there is massive.
But I guess though, what we got to think about as well with this is that those bikes, like the most expensive ones, have only just been released, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something, you know, in that as well.
Yeah. But there's two we think that are lower than that still.
Yeah. So I reckon that the squad of Agir Desire Le Mondial, their Eddie Merckx 525 bikes, they're actually racing with a Shimano Ultegra Di2 group set. Now, remember at the start of the year, they started racing on Campagnolo Super Record EPS. Then suddenly they just changed. I don't know what happened there. They're using Mavic wheels, Redestone tyres, stuff like that. I reckon their bikes are about £5,000. So, I mean, you know, the price is, I'm pretty close now when someone says how much the Tour de France bike worth. Well, so yeah, there we are. But there is one out there which could be even less, couldn't it? Possibly,
yeah,
I don't know.
We're not entirely sure, but, right, someone commented when we did a video talking about the new Cannondale Super 6 Evo that Cannondale doesn't appear to be making the rim brake version of the new bike in a high mod. They only have the disc brake version in high mod, but several of the pros, including Rigoberto Urán and Mike Woods at EF Education First, are riding the rim brake bike, which suggests that unless there's something we don't know, they're riding the regular Super 6, not the high mod souped up mega layup premium
lightweight
frame.
bike.
Yeah, so they're riding the regular Super 6 Evo frame in the new Super 6 Evo, which you can get with Ultegra on for $2,499. So, you know, add
Dual Race Di2,
add a bit of Dual Race on
and stuff. So we don't know exactly what it could be, but it could be around about the £5,000 mark.
Yeah, or I reckon you could get one for, you could build it for under £5,000.
Yeah.
Which, well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we're looking at about £15,000 for the most expensive out there, the top of the pops, all singing, all dancing, brand new, just released bikes, and then down to, well, 5,000.
Yeah, so big range.
Yeah,
in percentage
range,
terms. Really. Yeah, massive.
I've got to say the prices of bikes, they did actually tumble in around the mid-90s to late 90s, particularly around the aluminium frames, because we started to import them from the Far East. Prior to that, it was something of a luxury to have a bike made out of that material. But these days though, teams are searching for, I'm going to say it, wait for it, brace yourselves, marginal gains, and they are seeking the ultimate in performance, aren't they?
Yeah, and you know, if you look, for example, at Team Ineos riding the F12, it's a bike that, as we've mentioned previously in the thing, it's had a huge amount of development cost go into it, and so some of the expense can be attributed to that. But what can't be argued is the success that the F10 prior to the F12 had. I mean, if you look at when we did our video of the most successful bikes to peloton, that has consistently been the most successful bike in terms of the number of them that are being raced relative to the number of wins it scores. And there's something in that. I mean, you'd imagine that considering that partnership has gone on for so long, that Team Ineos, formerly Sky, would say that it's, you know, sponsorship, well, budget well spent, I guess, in terms of the relationship that's there. But even though 15 grand is a huge amount of money to spend on a bike, I think it's really interesting that the pros in the Tour de France, the best riders in the world, are not riding the most expensive road bikes available to humanity. No. Because, well, when we did our previous tech show about building that hypothetical most expensive bike,
that was fun.
We showed it could be about 30 grand or more for a bike. We should redo it. I think we could make it more expensive.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
But yeah, you know, 30 grand or more. And the difference with F1 is that those guys they are driving the most expensive cars available, because they have to include all the development cost of that car, and they're not sold to the public. We can't buy F1 cars.
Those costs are not being shared.
No, but the development cost is shared with the public because we can buy the same bike that a Tour de France rider is on. And in that sense, I guess, well, it's a bit more like touring cars.
Yeah, I do like a touring car.
Like production cars that are kind of souped up. So.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. But you know what? All these bikes, you know, I reckon there are bikes out there that have been using the Tour de France that are definitely more expensive than these. First up, Pinarello Sword, Miguel Indurain, back in the early to mid 90s. That thing, there was probably only 2 or 3 of them made. That thing must have cost a fortune to make back then. Lotus 110 Superbike, that's going to cost a fortune as well. There was, I think, 260 of those made. But then I bet you that Boardman and his pals had some special ones. And then, what about, okay, this one, it wasn't worth it, in my opinion, but it sold for a ridiculous amount of money. That Trek Madon that Armstrong used.
Of Damien Hirst.
Yeah, after one of his Tour de France wins. It had butterfly wings under the lacquer, didn't it? Because they wanted to use genuine butterfly wings so it would, the sun would shimmer off of them beautifully.
Yeah.
Not sure what I think about that really, because I've got a lot of butterflies in my garden.
It's a piece of art, John.
Yeah. Now that one went for $500,000, but was probably worth about $5,000, wasn't it?
But we want to know what you think about the cost of pro bikes in the Tour de France. Do you think that there should be a sort of sky's the limit? You can have like a 30 grand mega bike at the Tour de France, or do you think maybe we should go down a limit of say 5 grand? You've got 5 grand to spend on your bike. Would you put it in the wheels? Do you put it in the frame? And the pros are only allowed 5 grand.
What we've got to hope for, I think, in terms of the professionals, is that no one from the UCI is watching this right now and they think, that's a really good idea. Let's implement that from next year, because we will suddenly be hated.
We should do a show on it. It'd be funny. What would we build for 5 grand?
I don't know, but please do get involved in the comments. I absolutely love reading them, and yeah, don't give me too much abuse about my voice this week.
Time now for more tech, and the Deceuninck Quickstep team were spotted riding e-bikes at the Tour de France.
Naughty.
No, don't worry, John. It was on the rest day, and it was some new e-bikes that have been launched by Specialized. That's why they were doing it. So they've got 3 new e-bike models: the Creo SW, the Creo SL Expert, and the Creo SL Expert Pro Evo.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, they all come with Specialized Future Shock systems. So it's going to smooth out the ride at the front end. Remember, Sagan, he used that, didn't he, to win Paris-Roubaix?
He did.
Yeah, just a good little bit of kit on that. And if you want a little bit more comfort on there too, the Expert Evo even comes with a dropper seat post and 38mm tyres. So essentially it's a gravel e-bike.
Yeah, what's cool is...
Gravel e-bike, not gravelly bike.
So we've got Dura Ace Di2 and Ultegra Di2 fitted on there. But interestingly, they've been paired up with Shimano's XTR mountain bike components, like one-by drivetrains as well on there, which is pretty interesting.
It's quite a strange move to make, I think,
no
really.
front mechs.
It's like 1142 and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe one buys the future, who knows? Oh, they've got disc brakes, by the way, so you rim brake lovers out there, you won't be able to get a hold of one. Battery, 320 watt hours on it, so enough to keep you smashing up those climbs, Ollie. And if you run out of juice, not to worry, because you can even get a battery extender which fits into your bottle cage. So
quite neat, that.
Yeah, it's not the most discreet thing, I guess, so you can't go fooling any of your mates, I don't reckon. But that simply has a little wire that then plugs into the down tube where the battery is, and well, Bob's your uncle, you can get another 160 watt hours out of it.
Nice. Now, another big story from the Tour de France last week was the sight of the Team Ineos bike of Gianni Moscon in 2 pieces.
Yeah.
And a lot of chat about this on social media, and the perception was that it had snapped in half when Geraint Thomas had landed on it. However...
One of the lights, he's not a heavy rider, is he, Geraint?
No. However, Cosmo Catalano from How the Race Was Won fame has, he's pieced together the evidence and actually come up with what appears to have actually happened. So there's footage of one of the commissaire's cars approaching the bike as it's on the ground. You can see the bike in one piece, and this is after Geraint Thomas has landed on it, at which point then you hear a crunch as the car travels past, which suggests that the car drove over it, which makes a lot more sense than skinny little Geraint Thomas landing on it.
Yeah.
And there are pictures of Geraint Thomas landing on it as well, where it doesn't appear to be snapping under G's weight either. So,
yeah, however, if you do want a bike which doesn't get broken under the weight of a car, the Kirk Precision Magnesium Road Bike, which it's been featured on the show a few times. Actually, I got to check one out. When I checked out that Lotus bike, there was one just around the corner, and it was on Blue Peter once, which is a children's television programme in Great Britain, and a lorry drove over it and it didn't break it in half. but it was extremely heavy and they broke in other areas. Right, all of that aside, we've got some more news in the tech world, haven't we? Because Mavic has been sold. Yes, that's right. Mavic has been sold by its parent company, Armour Sports, to a private equity firm, Regent LP. In a statement released by Armour Sports, they had to say, as part of our strategy, we continue to focus on the group portfolio and capabilities towards areas of faster growth, better profitability and scalability. Over the past cycle, we've concluded that we are not the best owner for Mavic, which only represented approximately 3% of our sales, which has distinct business drivers and little synergies versus the broader group. We believe that the iconic Mavic brand has strong potential, which would be better realised as part of Regent. Armour Sports continues to capitalise on its strategic priorities, especially soft goods, direct-to-consumer, China and the States. And that came from Armour Sports President and CEO, Heikki Takala. They haven't sold Envy though, have they?
No, they haven't, but it looks like they're probably going to. Well, I would say based on that statement, but we'll see. As yes, they also own Envy.
Yeah. Spanish bike brand BH have shown a new bike ahead of the 2020 official launch, I guess. And well, it's already been used at this year's Tour de France by friend of the channel, Andre Greipel of Arkea Samsic.
Yeah, it looks cool, doesn't it? So it's the G8 disc. It's replacing the G7. It's said to be about 20 grams lighter than the G7. And it also has this really interesting head tube that's kind of shaped like an egg timer at the front there.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cool design.
Yeah, it's fully integrated with the cables and hoses as you would expect. And like you've already said, 20 grams lighter. So it's an aero bike, so we don't need to worry too much about weight there. But integration is obviously still key for every brand out there. They look better anyway, don't they?
And finally this week, the Italian shoe brand Fizik has released a new special version of its Tempo R5 shoe. It's called the Tempo R5 Paris 1969, and it's a really cool blend of modern and retro. So you've got kind of like, well, modern tech touches in there, built into like a retro-styled package.
Yeah, it's something which loads of people out there I think desire, don't they? Because some cycling shoes can be a bit too bling, really.
Yeah.
And someone wants to have like a really understated shoe, but still have great performance gains, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, these shoes, so it's got trickle-down tech, essentially. It's got a composite sole, so instead of a full-on carbon fibre bit of kit, you've also got a BOA dial on there, so no laces to worry about, like the originals were back in 1969. It's got some 70s inspired zigzag pattern and black and gold. I always think that looks good. Reminds me of the Lotus JPS Formula One car.
Yeah.
More Formula One technology.
I do like the styling cues on there.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind a pair of those. Size 44, please.
It's now time for Screw Riding Upgrades by Upgrades, where you submit evidence of the upgrades that you've made to your bikes or equipment for a bid to win the ultimate prize, the GCN Camelback Eddy water bottle.
Oh, yes.
I don't know where it's gone.
No.
I don't know.
Someone's
stolen it because it's such a hot prize.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. Someone is getting well and truly hydrated because it is boiling right now in Great Britain. Anyway, last week we had a hotly contested contest. It was between Jack and Francisco. Now you remember Jack's bike, it was a vintage old rally build, and it was probably built in somewhere where you used to live, because you used to live in the factory, or there was some weird story about you squatting or something.
We'll save that for another time.
Exactly, yeah. Just like the Christa Berg performing in an Asda car park. We've still not heard that story, Ollie, but we will, I'm sure. Anyways, up against Francisco, who had a very messy bedroom stroke workshop.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, winning with a whopping 74% of votes was Jack. So if there's anything that we can take from this, make your bed and tidy your bedroom.
Yeah, that's the lesson. That's the moral of the story.
Exactly. Yeah. Jack,
Right.
get in contact with us on Facebook to arrange delivery of that water bottle.
Yeah.
Anyway, this week, the first contender is Eric. So Eric traded a box of beer for this old Peugeot frame.
Good trade.
Yeah. The paint job was pretty bad, so he decided to strip it right back and make it clean. He first removed all the paintwork, then sprayed some clear coat layers on, added a few parts from his garage that he had laying around, and the few bits he didn't have, he bought. And last of all, Eric added a front rack that he welded onto the forks.
Skills.
And this is the end product.
So that's what it was.
Yeah. That old Peugeot. Look at it now.
And he's welded that.
They're still, yeah.
He's welded that.
Tell you what, this flashy pair of wheels.
Whoa.
That's nice, isn't it?
That is.
I tell you, do you reckon he then Eric carries his beer on that front?
Well, no, he traded it.
Yeah, but do you reckon that like he would go and buy his beer?
Look at that little rainbow thing he's on. That's quite nice.
Do you reckon that's homemade out of some insulation tape or not? Eric, let us know.
Do you know what? He's got a bell on there as well. I think that is great. I'd love to ride around town on that.
I'd love to see you ride up the Croce in Italy on that, actually, Ollie. Like we made you do before.
That'd be easier on that than the bike that you gave me.
I don't know about that. Right, who's Eric up against this week then?
Well, Eric is up against the not very French sounding Barney, who's from...
Barney Rubble.
Yeah.
Sorry, Barney, I'm only joking.
Who's from Chamonix, en France.
Oh.
And this is his Moto Bicane.
Oh, nice.
So Barney bought his Moto Bicane off a friend as a town commuter. And there were parts on it that were starting to break and fail, so Barney decided to upgrade the bike. He decided the cheapest option to upgrade the bike was to turn it into a fixie.
And the simplest as well.
Classic, but living in Chamonix, I mean, maybe not the most sensible idea, unless he's super strong.
Yeah, but you're not going to be travelling outside of Chamonix, that's for sure. If anyone's unaware, Chamonix is a ski resort. Yeah.
I mean, cycling down from Chamonix on a fixie. Well, you're a braver man than me, Barney. Yeah. And here you go. So that's what it started out as. I mean, that's a nice bike.
I would have left it at that.
I mean, that's a nice bike as it is. And then, there we go. I mean, I preferred the older wheels and tyres.
I'm really sorry, Barney. Oh, okay, right. Now
I see where we went. Right, yeah.
I see what you've done.
That is very tidy. I like the Brooks saddle, classic design.
Bars aren't to my taste.
But I like how he's matched the bar tape.
Yeah, bar tape and saddle.
Barney's
I always
bar
like
tape.
that. White bar tape, white saddle. Yeah. I don't know, who's it going to be? I mean, when we saw that second picture, we were both absolutely gutted.
I mean, am I allowed to say that I liked it, how it started?
Yeah, but actually the end result is just as nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's John, yeah, really good. Right, you decide
Eric or Barney.
Who wins.
Top right-hand corner.
Up here. Time now for my favourite part of the show, the bike vault.
Why do you always do it with a funny accent?
I don't know. You submit pictures of your bikes and then me and John judge them as to be either super nice or nice. If they're super nice, we ring the bell.
Yeah, do you know, I don't mind ringing it this week because I've got a bit of a sore throat. Do you know what? Right, last week in the comments, everyone was like, "There's no consistency in the bike vault." They were giving us so much grief. It's brilliant. But I just said, sorry. The rules are, we write the rules and we change the rules.
We make the rules.
We make the rules up as we go along. Right, okay. First submission this week is Kailing from Teluk Bahang Dam in Penang in Malaysia. I've got all of that wrong. Apologies, Kai. It's
nice though,
it's a Stelbel Antenore in Columbus XCR tubing, so it's a steel bike. Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
That is a nice bike.
Small little bike, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, I love that he's got Campag. You don't see as many Campag bikes, but he's got the Boro wheels on there as well, matching the Campag group set. Nice Fizik saddle.
Colour of the bike looks good as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's taken his bottle cages out. He's lined up his wheels. Got the crank set perfectly oriented. Yeah. Not in the Biggie Smalls. Not in the Biggie Smalls.
No, Biggie Smalls has been brought back into the bike vault this week.
I think we can let Biggie Smalls go.
We can let Biggie Smalls slide.
Yeah, on this occasion, because I think everything else is ticking the boxes.
Yeah.
For me, that's a super nice.
Yeah, I think for me too. It looks like a beautiful area as well.
Yeah.
So Kai, invite us out to Malaysia, mate. Right then, who have we got next, Ollie?
Next, we've got Stuart, who's from Warwick in the UK.
Right.
And this is his S-Works Tarmac disc SL6. What do you make of that?
Right, it's nice, isn't it? It's got SRAM ready tap.
Yes.
Crank position could have been better.
Could have been better.
Tyre position too could have been better.
Yeah, I like his little Vico cages, his little elite
nice
cages. He's
looks like he's got some
very smart with the wheels.
I reckon they got the blip shifters underneath the bar tape. Looks like it, doesn't it?
It does look like that.
Looks
In a
like
sort of trigger position.
Yeah,
nice.
he's taking some inspiration from Mark Cavendish there. That's where he has his little Di2 ones.
Biggie Smalls. We've got Biggie Smalls.
We've got Biggie Smalls is in the house.
I think that's pretty good. Again, not perfect.
How's it oh, I see why he's done that.
That's his crank position.
Yeah, because he's leaning up with his pedal.
Yes.
Yeah, against the grass verge there.
I think that's a super nice one.
Yeah, these are super nice too, yeah. Great looking bike that, Stu. Right then, the next one is Tim at the top of the Monte Zoncolon with a Trek de Marne disc. Do you know, that bike looks familiar.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that around, I'm pretty sure I've seen that around Bath actually. Yeah.
Where have you, I mean, I think that's a super nice.
Well,
that is definitely a super nice.
I need to dissect this bike first. Let's
definitely
pick it apart as we do sometimes.
It's a
you know what?
beautiful Trek
GCN bottles.
Good, isn't it? GCN bottles. I mean,
yeah, we got
come on, super.
Quite a bit of steer out there, pointing up stem, saddlebag on there. I would have taken that off really. It is in the Biggie Smalls, as you like to call it.
Yeah.
Crank position port.
Yeah.
Valve caps are on again. Do you know what? I think I've seen. That's your landlord's bike. That is, isn't it?
My landlord Tim.
Yeah. It's
super nice though, isn't it? And it's definite. That is the most super nice bike I think I've ever seen.
No, is your tenancy coming up for renewal or something?
That's a super nice.
I guess it's a super nice Tim. Yeah, I'll kick him out.
And the final entry this week comes from Chris in Arcadia, Wisconsin, US of A. And, well, he's got a picture of his M48 Patton main battle tank, which was designed and built in the USA, saw service from 1953 right through to the 1990s with the US Army, of course named after General George S. Patton, and it's still in service with armed forces today throughout the world. Speeds of up to 30 miles an hour from that legendary air-cooled V12 engine, 29-litre petrol engine.
29?
810 brake horsepower and 1,950 Newton meters of torque.
Torquey. Oh, that is nice. Now, those ones were originally petrol, but then they were converted to diesel around about 1968, 1969?
Correct. Also, main armament there is a 90mm cannon with a muzzle velocity of 3,800 meters per second.
Pokey.
Rapid. Also, secondary armament, 50 caliber machine gun mounted on the turret, and within the turret as well is also a 7.62mm M67 machine gun as well.
Just staying with that turret, Ollie, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a 1 million candle power searchlight, xenon searchlight on top of that to identify targets.
Indeed, there was. And still in service with the Turkish army.
Well, for me, Ollie, that has to be super nice. I mean, the turret, we could have had more of that in shot.
Brilliant.
Yeah, super nice. More Bike Vault next week.
Right, end of the show time. We hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you get better for
Thanks, mate.
next week with your premium chat voice. And if you'd like to support the channel, then please subscribe to GCN Tech if you haven't already, and also click the little bell icon. That's important. It gives you a notification when we upload new videos. And also, you can head over to the GCN shop where we've got our cool France-themed merch on sale at the moment. So I quite like this. It's a bit craft work, I think.
It is, yeah. I do like that. Yeah, the old stripes. And well, for 2 more absolutely cracking videos, how about clicking on Ollie and my voice box?